Back to the Comic Lyra podcast, the podcast where we comically
and literally
review comics, and that is for any new fans who might be listening who hopefully we don't put off by going off book or off tangents or anything too much, which I think might happen.
Well, don't go off book then. Let's stick to the thing. What are we talking about this week?
Well, let me just check my notes because I believe this week we covered out. Oh, hang on. Oh, there's something wrong with my notes because I've got here that we're covering a non-superhero comic.
I was surprised as well after 2 months.
I mean, they were very important months. We couldn't ignore them.
Yeah, well, how can we ignore the time-honoured traditions of December
and Marv Chill?
And fucking Marv Chill. I'm so glad we're in April.
It's that, you know, when you've just had New Year's.
Indie April. It's Indie April.
Indie April. Yeah. That could be a thing.
Well, it's been Indie April every year.
I mean, whether we continue with Indie April is the question.
We're doing Indie April.
It's indie, despite the fact that at the beginning of April we did the little indie darlings of Superman and Spider-Man.
Hey, it was a crossover. It's a crossover, baby.
If it's 2 big companies, they cancel each other out. It becomes independent.
That's exactly how it works.
That's how it works. Well,
so it's Indie April, and for the second week of Indie April, we were gonna do one thing, and then I opened it and went, "Nah, fuck that." So we're doing a comic.
We might do another week. We don't know.
Yeah, we might end up doing it. I might be in a better mood next week.
We'll see.
But we ended up doing something that I really liked, which is a comic book about wrestling. It's our second time Ryan's managed to sneak one in.
It is the second time, and I read this. So we're doing image comic called Wrestle Heist.
Yeah.
And I read this and enjoyed it and thought it was really cool, but very self-aware of the fact that it was very much a bit of me. Like, it's right on my alley as a pro wrestling fan. So I did tempt the idea of like, should I propose to do this on the podcast? And I generally felt like, I don't want to just put on you like, we're doing a wrestling comic, you know, like, but as it happens, we needed something, and I was like, I've read this is good.
Well, you suggested it, and I think my single word response was...
Fine.
Deal.
Some non-energetic, like, if we have to, something like that, wasn't it?
So you gave me this to read, and I cracked the cover on it on the first issue, and was like, "Oh, that looks fun. Yeah, deal. We'll do it."
Fair.
And so yeah, no, it's really great. So who wrote it?
So this was written by, surprisingly, it's a wrestling comic that was not written by Daniel Warren Johnson for once.
Yeah.
And I said as a big fan of his, I love his stuff. But I was just surprised when I opened it to be like, oh, it's not D-Dubs.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, fair enough. It was actually written by one Kyle Starks, with colors by Vlad Popov. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. And designed by Dylan Todd.
So that would imply that Kyle Starks wrote and drew it.
I would interpret that as it being drawn by Dylan Todd.
Well, no, because...
But they use different...
designed by... Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
You don't see the credit design much in comics, which is... It's a common thing with, like, independent comics, because there is no standard of, like, how people are credited.
Yeah.
Like, even in Marvel and DC, like, sometimes you get, like... Was it, like... oh, God, there was one term that we didn't know we had to look up, and it was a really interesting thing, and I can't even remember what it was now. Like setter or something like that?
Typesetter.
Yes, mate, something like that. But yeah, so it's a Wild West when it comes to crediting.
Yeah.
But so at least we've named the people who have got the big letters at the beginning of the comic.
This was either drawn by Dylan Todd or Kyle Starks. It's important that I remember their names.
And
then it was coloured in by Vlad Popov.
Yes. Well, I would interpret that as the way, yes.
So
should we starting with the arting before I inevitably get into all the wrestling references that are made in this comic?
No, we're not starting with the arting. It's general thoughts.
And technically it's not general thoughts yet until this happens. And we are saluting.
So, since we've been using that, because it's
good catch as well. I you'd think it's my first day for getting general thoughts.
Since we've been using that, it's called
Soldiers March.
No, but it's not the Soldiers March. So it's the Grenadiers March.
Okay.
Or it's the British Grenadiers is what it's called.
Fair enough.
The March of the British Grenadiers.
God save our great. We have to say that every time it's mentioned.
I've learned how to play that so far on a guitar, the tenor guitar, a mandolin, and a ukulele, because it's just been stuck in my head a lot.
So you're going to layer all those different instruments on top of each other?
I am going to do that, yeah.
Well, we've got some comments at the end of the show that might have some weighed-in opinions on that, but we'll get to that later.
General thoughts on this? I liked it.
Yeah?
I liked it quite a lot. I thought it was painted in quite broad strokes.
Yes.
But knowingly so. And it's obvious who they're all talking about, which is great fun.
Yep.
Because he is widely regarded to be a bit of a monster, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. There's some interesting stuff with like how they're portrayed as well, which we'll get into. But I agree with you that in reading it, I enjoyed it. It was a good wrestling comic. I'm a wrestling fan, so naturally it was going to appeal to me.
Yeah.
In judging it and getting your opinion, it was like, is this just charming to me, or would it be charming to a non-wrestling fan?
No, I found it really charming.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what I was hoping for.
I know more than nothing about comic books. I have a brief and passing understanding of comic books because I talk to you and it's your special interest.
You're in that very, very specific area where if you're in a room with people who call themselves comic book fans, you might be similar to, or they might know a lot more than you. But then compared to anyone who doesn't call themselves that, you are an expert.
Yes.
It's a very interesting, like, depending on which room you're in.
Absolutely, yeah. Although, what's mental is that I was in a comic book store the other day. I was trying to buy a copy of the Nightwing.
Of the what, Jamie? Of the what?
I was trying to buy a copy of the alternate cover to Nightwing 136.
Really? Well, why the alternate cover? What's so good about that as opposed to the normal cover?
Just wanted it.
Really? Was it a specific artist that you're a fan of that was drawing on it?
It was a specific Nightwing.
Okay.
Anyway.
An alternate version of Nightwing? Alternate universe version of Nightwing?
Everyone knows why I was trying to buy it.
Some might not. We have new listeners. I don't know how it's happened, but we do have new listeners. So.
If you are like new to comic books, just look up Nightwing issue 136 alternate cover, and you'll know why I was.
But not if you're in public or
any
loved ones.
Not if your wife's around. But I was trying to buy 2 copies of it, one for my own private enjoyment, and one that I could bring to you as a gift on the podcast.
For my own private enjoyment.
For your own private enjoyment. But alas, the comic book store I like to go to isn't a new comic book store, it's a used one. So he didn't have it. But I did get chatting to somebody. Really lovely dude, if you're listening, because he did take down the details of the comic book.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Sean. It was lovely to meet you. Had a really great chat. But he mentioned that he had in his like private stash a copy of the first Thirst Trap Nightwing cover.
Wow.
Because it had come up in that very comic book store.
A man after your own heart.
Yeah. And it was his only Nightwing that he owned. That made it even better. And he'd apparently it'd come in on a trade-in, like just, a stack of comics the guy had bought, and it'd been there hanging out. And the guy who runs the comic book store was like, I don't really know if I can put this out. Like, it's pretty saucy. And he was just like,
you might have some, if you put it in the front window, there might be some car crashes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like people will be blinded. And he was like, I'll just buy it off you. It's fun for the collection. And I literally said to him, like, as I was leaving, I shook his hand and I was like, by the way, if you ever want to sell that Nightwing, email me. It's comicliterature@gmail.com. So I am, if there's anybody out there who has either of the shirtless Nightwing alt covers, just know that I'm after them and send us an email.
I was reminded of one the other day. There's an alternate cover of World's Finest, which is the Superman-Batman team-up title. And it's them in a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
That Superman is heating up with his heat vision.
I know the one.
And they just said, two guys chilling in a hot tub, 5 feet apart because they might be gay or something. That's an old reference.
Anyway, should we start with the arting?
Yeah, let's start with the arting.
I thought this comic book was properly lovely.
Yes, very fun. Again, charming. Like, I think is a kind of art style where you're kind of like, is this being taken seriously? And then as you get into it, you're like, oh, it's very lovingly drawn and crafted.
Yes, absolutely. So it's deeply cartoony, very, very cartoonified. Reminds me of web comics of the 2000s in a big way. Definitely get that vibe.
Would not be surprised if the artist did those before this.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised if I'd seen some of their webcomics in the 2000s in passing. But that being said, everything is in the right place and panel to panel, it looks great. I love it.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think it juxtaposes really nicely against quite a grown-up, serious story. A story painted in broad strokes, but quite a serious story.
A story, as we'll get into it, that really balances like wacky humor and serious topics very well.
100%. But it looks great, and it's full of little Easter eggs in the background. There's always something interesting happening. I personally think that this is the ideal compromise between aiming for something really, really, really hyper realistic and failing, or just doing like standard comic book stuff. It's not standard comic book stuff, but they've also not attempted this like really, really dense, detailed art style that their artists can't maintain. Like, they have drawn something that they can consistently nail panel to panel, and it also just is really physically attractive. It's also just very attractive. Like, it looks.
You can say
good.
physically attractive.
No. It also just looks really nice, Ryan. I just liked it.
Are those the words you settled for using?
Yes. I'm struggling.
I think tonally, I think it gets across a lot of the humor much better than if it was a more conventional art style. I think a lot of the jokes wouldn't work as well, but this kind of like gets a lot of the jokes across the line by kind of being wacky in certain, looking the part for the kind of jokes it tells, but also the facial expressions are good enough that it gets across like the more serious or somber tones as well, like, which seems ridiculous to say when you first look at it. You're like, this is going to be just a fun time, like low stakes fun time, and for the most part it is. But then when you do get the moments where there is some more serious discussion and bit of character development and stuff, they look the part in those moments as well. It doesn't feel like you're watching like Looney Tunes where they discuss like, yeah, my body's all beaten up and I can't work anymore and I've ruined my relationships with my family. Like, it's not that contrasting when it gets to those moments, you know?
Yes, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think there's a character here who has been done dirty to a certain degree. I think there's one character here who lacks a bit of depth that everyone else has, but I'll get into that when we start talking about the story, which I think we're about to, because again, as much as we both like the art, there's not a lot to be said for it. It's a fun cartoon.
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to say is this is the kind of art style that lends itself to a lot of like little bits of detail which are fun. Like some of the, there's a word for it, I can't remember what it is, but you know, like when they write the sounds. Like,
onomatopoeia.
I don't know if that's the same word if it's comic things like the Batman punch, like wham or whatever. Like, I know those.
That's all onomatopoeia.
Yeah, I know that's not. I don't know if there's a specific word for comic book use as well.
Yeah,
but there's like fun little things like that. Like there's a joke later which I'm attributing to the art, where it's about a heist and they're stealing money, and there's a bit where there's a guy's training in a gym, and on the wall they've put like, this much money weighs this much in weight.
Yeah,
just like a little dumb like, they're training to physically carry the money out of the, wherever. Like,
but it's important.
Yeah, and it's just fun. And for me especially as well, there are a lot of wrestling references in terms of like how the characters are portrayed. Like transitioning into story, I think one of the first things you're going to mention by the sounds of it is the antagonist of the story. And what's interesting is the way they've been designed here, they actually look like a different real wrestling person. They're actually designed to look like a guy called Paul Heyman, who was a wrestling booker back in the day.
Yeah.
But as a character, they are much more Vince McMahon of the WWE code.
Yes, that's exactly who I thought they were getting.
And they're very interesting choices to me to be like, oh, it's interesting that he's Vince, but he's made to look like this other guy, Paul Heyman.
Vince McMahon is actually quite physically appealing as a human being, isn't he? He's quite well muscled. He's quite handsome.
He's like a lot older now. And
yeah, but they needed this guy to look a bit
like seedy, like,
yeah,
especially in comparison to like in a world of these wrestlers who are big, muscular, athletic guys, he is a short, fat, balding guy. And I think that contrast of the characters, like, it makes you kind of hate him more, where he's the big bad.
Not only is he balding, but he's balding with a ponytail. And I think there's no more grotesque hairstyle that one can achieve than the balding with a ponytail.
And like I said, that was a real guy who had that hairstyle.
Well, there's many real guys who had that hairstyle.
And he's kind of a bad dude. So.
Was he also a bad dude?
Yeah. We ain't got time to get into that.
But yeah, so this story, would you like me to...
Yeah, give us a breakdown of what's going on in Wrestle Heist.
So, Wrestle Heist, we meet Sterling?
Sterling, yeah.
What's his first name?
Sterling Steel. So you got it in two halves, but Sterling Steel.
So we meet Sterling Steel, who is the heel.
Yep.
The heel, for any non-wrestling fans out there, is the bad guy, or a good guy who turns heel.
Yeah, basically bad guy, yeah.
He's the bad guy.
The word heel comes from the idea, a heel turn. So the idea of someone being good, standing next to the good guy, and then turning on their heel to like hit them with a chair or whatever.
There you go. So he's the bad guy, long-standing bad guy, but is very well loved by his colleagues. He's going over to a different production, and basically Vince McMahon is asking him, well, what can I do to keep you? And he's like, well, you can pay me fairly. You can give me my dues in terms of the merch sales. Yep. Basically, he just rattles off a list of things that he could do, which are all bare minimums. They're all bare minimums for somebody in the creative field to get a fair ride from their company. And he's like, well, no, I'm not going to do any of that. But why are you leaving?
Yeah.
And so essentially, he fixes it so that his neck gets broken in the fight. He then spends a bunch of time in hospital. You see a montage of all of the rejections from these other wrestling productions because no one will have him now because he's too expensive to insure.
Yeah, well, specifically, it's a nice little tension building with me of he literally physically can't wrestle anymore because he's been told if you take one more bad bump, you'll probably be paralyzed from the neck down.
Yeah.
And I think that's a nice little, that's always in the background, even though that is a important plot point at the beginning, that's always in the background of remember, you can't take a bump, might get paralyzed.
Remember, I could kill you instead of just hurting you.
Yeah.
But then he basically meets up with a bunch of people who have also been fucked over by this character, who we will continue to refer to as
Vince McMahon.
Yeah. And they decide that they are going to conduct a heist, robbing him of his earnings from his Thanksgiving Day Wrestle pay-per-view.
Do you remember what the pay-per-view's called?
Fightsgiving.
Wrestling pay-per-views tend not to have the most creative names when it comes to, anything beyond WrestleMania.
But in the broadest possible terms, that is the story.
Yeah, it's pro wrestling meets Ocean's 11, literally.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Although the people doing the heist aren't quite as good at it as the people in Ocean's 11. They have a very specific set of skills.
Yep.
And they're all there for reasons.
They get a team together. There's a bit of, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, there really is. And there's people who don't like each other who are forced to work together.
Yep.
And they all kind of have this history together. So there is kind of a host of characters have all been fucked over in different ways. There's Sterling, obviously what happened to him is what happened to him. Then there is another chap called the Grave Digger.
Yeah, very much a Undertaker parody character.
So he basically, Vince McMahon stole a lot of money off him over the years, and then he took him to court over it and he lost. And so he's now broke working the convention circuit, isn't he?
Yeah, and that is basically as a wrestler, unless you make it in the big time and make a lot of money, even if you do sometimes as well, your inevitably post-wrestling career is going to be doing the conventions. That is, unless you become The Rock or John Cena.
Well, I was about to say, there have been two that have crossed over into films, but didn't The Undertaker want to cross over into films and it just didn't really work for him?
No, he never properly tried. Stone Cold took a little stab at it.
Yeah, and then Brock Lesnar obviously had a turn in the UFC, didn't he?
Yeah, and then went back to wrestling
Yeah, because the UFC... Even though there's that one time he nearly fucking killed that guy.
Oh, in wrestling or in UFC?
UFC.
I think it happened in both.
Have you seen the
only Brock Lesnar match I've seen? And I should watch more. I think is interesting. The only one I saw was against, I can't remember the name of the guy, but the guy got Brock Lesnar down on the floor and on top of him and was punching the shit out of him.
And then he picked him up and fucking yeeted him.
No, it waited till... it's because the only one I've seen is why I remember this. Brock literally couldn't get up, so he just... blocked as much as he could, waited for the round to end because he physically couldn't get up from it, and then in the next round got it on top of the other guy quickly because he didn't want the same thing to happen again.
Brock Lesnar picked somebody up and threw them on the floor in UFC.
Yeah, exactly. And he did that in wrestling as well.
Well, but that was his thing in wrestling, but it's controlled in wrestling.
It was agreed to. That's the best way to put it.
That is not the kind of thing you see in the UFC, mate. People don't just fucking suplex each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, he didn't have a storied career in the UFC because the issue is, I think his instincts would have been all wrong because he spent his entire life throwing fake punches.
To be fair, he was also a high school and college proper wrestler.
They all are though. They all
not
do.
Necessarily all of them.
Well, the British ones certainly don't because it might amuse you Americans to know, but we don't put leotards on and wrestle each other in high schools and in Britain. I know it's a big deal in America.
I assume so, but also it's definitely not as big as like football or basketball or anything.
No, yeah, wrestling in American schools is huge.
Yeah, but not as big as those. Like those are like entire industries in the like college basketball and college football are like they're like industries in themselves.
Well, college football and college basketball are televised in the US, aren't they?
Yeah, like high school and college wrestling isn't televised. Like that's why like their best pipeline is either go to the Olympics or become a pro wrestler. Yeah. Like those are the two things, aren't they?
Side note, imagine it. I suppose you didn't go to university, did you? But I
went to the School of Life, I like to say.
Well, I'm not
failed that as well, obviously. But
there's no judgment here. It's just
I am very working class, so as we've established.
I got a free ride at university.
At least you went.
But I say that because I was about to talk about it as if it's a universal experience, but it's not. But I can't like the idea of British sport, like British university sports being televised is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I was in the Taekwondo Society at my university. And despite never having done any Taekwondo in my entire life, I ended up teaching it because I had a black belt in karate. And it's like, same fucking deal. And I was like, no, but I can teach you guys how to throw a punch if you want. But I remember going to watch my buddies, forget what sport it was now. It
was a great game, though.
But that's the thing. Because all I remember is like they were having to take it in turns to run to the edge of the pitch to throw up because obviously they'd all been out the night before. Because in British universities, they have to have a consensus as to when the sports teams meet. So they all need to like earmark the same time in the week. If not, it'll never happen because everyone's got classes and shit. So Wednesday mornings, everyone was off, right?
Right.
Like if you were in a sports team, you went and played a match on Wednesday mornings against another university. So we all got Wednesday mornings off, which meant the local nightclubs in Manchester knew that Tuesday night was now student night because no one had lectures the next morning. And of course, the sports teams went out together. And so they'd be there about to play a game of football against another university, all of them just hanging.
Well, so that was back when you could do that kind of thing and still do stuff the next day, unlike our ages currently.
Oh my God, what did I do? I drank 2 glasses of wine at a pub quiz that I was hosting the other day, and I thought I was going to die.
Yeah, that's what happens. That's what's in for you at this age.
Yeah, if you're not in your 30s yet, you fucking wait.
The trick is to never stop drinking, and then it doesn't seem like a big deal.
That's alcoholism.
It's kind of a frog in a boiling water situation. You don't realize how bad it gets because you never left. You know?
We can't promote alcoholism on our podcast.
I'm fairly certain at one point we promoted smoking meth. So this is a step down, if anything.
Well, yeah, you can smoke meth. That's fine.
If anything, you need less of it to have a good time, apparently.
Speaking of which, one of the characters in this.
yeah, there is a lot of drugs in the wrestling industry.
I mean, it's entertainment industry stuff,
more
isn't
in
it?
The past, apparently less so nowadays.
Yeah, everyone says that, though.
They are more health conscious these days.
Everyone says that about every industry. And I think that's just because the younger generations don't like the drugs so much, although apparently that's changing.
I think they like it, but I mean, especially in wrestling, like we were getting to like proper wrestling, like inside knowledge and stuff, right? Back in like the 80s and 70s, they weren't hiring athletes to be wrestlers. They were hiring just big dudes, right?
Yeah.
Big dudes who were quite athletic because like when they were younger, like mid to late 20s or whatever, but they were not athletic people by any nature.
Yeah.
So when they got to like 30s, mid 30s, they were like, "Oh, brother, I'm not gonna be able to do a long match this one. Let's call it in the ring. Let's do a quick 5 minutes, take it home, you know?" And they would just go out and get absolutely slaughtered. Like one of the best examples, some might say the prime example, is Ric Flair, who is still drinking and partying as much as he did back in the day. And I'm pretty sure he's in his late 80s. Like, he's still going. Yeah. It's sad. It's really sad.
Do you know what, though? If that's the life he wants to live and it hasn't killed him and he's in his 80s, more power to him.
Yeah, and if you run into him, which apparently a lot of people do, like out in the street.
Yeah, because he's out partying all the time.
He'll take a picture, he'll give you a woo, and that's his thing. But yeah, he's still going. But he's one of the few that survived. That is like the the reality
and
of
therein lies the point. He's one of the few that survived.
Yeah, and wrestling inherently, like, one of the best descriptions I got, like, about pro wrestling is the kind of thing if you told a doctor, like, hey, I'm going to do this exactly. Like, if you say, I'm going to be a pro wrestler, they'll be like, okay, well, look after yourself.
Yeah.
If you actually break it down, like, I'm going to be being thrown onto wooden planks over and over again several times a week for years, potentially. Doc's going to be like, you shouldn't do that. Like, no one should do
really
that.
bad.
That's bad. I wouldn't, like, recommend anyone do that, or it's okay. Then you add on to, like, medical issues, alcohol and drugs to curb the pain and discomfort of that, and a lot of them died fairly early, like, in life.
Yeah.
And that's why there is a newer generation of actual athletes who are essentially drama nerds, like the inner athlete's body, who are committed to being good at this who want to do this for the rest of their lives. Well, so they're actually taking care of them.
The famous face that probably everybody, whose name everyone would know, who transitioned into the WWE in the past 5 years was Logan Paul, wasn't it?
Yeah, and unfortunately, because he is a real dog of a bloke in real life, and luckily they made him a heel, like, thank God, like, in the WWE. Unfortunately, he's real natural at wrestling. Like, he's really good at it. Not just like the being a bad guy thing. Physically, he's really good as well.
He's incredibly athletic, isn't he? He has a really high level of athleticism. He's a whore for the drama. I've heard that everybody wanted to hate him, and then he got in the ring and everyone was like, he's great.
Yeah, and there's a real history of, like, celebrities who just get involved in wrestling and do some wrestling stuff. Like, would be in a match.
Action Bronson did some, and fuck it, I mean, Action Bronson, even when that man was like 300 pounds, he was athletic as fuck.
Well, there's quite a few guys like that in wrestling, and women as well, but, like, you see a lot more in guys just probably because of the industry. There are guys who are fat, and you would describe them as fat, but they can still run around and, like, move around and do moonsaults and that kind of stuff. And I think some people look at them and like, see, being fat has nothing to do with, like, whether you're healthy or not. It's like, no, they've got, like, fucking engines on them. Like, they can move themselves in a way that is unnatural for most people.
There is a dude that I met when I was doing a lot of guitar tech stuff in Norwich, and he was in one of the local bands. I can't remember their name. I probably wouldn't say it on air even if I did, because this guy does deserve his privacy. Very nice bloke, but he must have been 6 foot, at least 25 stone. He was a fucking big guy. He was probably in his 40s or 50s. I remember watching him drum for a 30-minute set. I mean, I thought he was going to put the stick through the snare. Like, he was so big and so strong. But he also looked like his heart was about to explode.
Yeah.
Drumming, right? Then I found out he was a fucking semi-professional wrestler. And I saw footage of him on the internet wrestling. And I was like, fuck me. Because he was 25 stone and he was absolutely sending himself at these geezers. Yeah. And it's like, if you got hit with that amount of weight moving at that velocity, it might actually kill you.
Yeah, yeah. I will say this, and I think this is something that non-wrestling fans probably will push back on the most about wrestling.
Yeah.
I think pro wrestling is one of, if not the most physically demanding thing anyone can do, right? And I'm even comparing that to, like, high-level sports. And the reason specifically is because I know in high-level sports, people have to be, I would argue, like, a higher level of athleticism, whether it be in muscle or stamina or speed or whatever. But typically, those people train for specific events or tournaments or whatever, and then have off seasons.
Whereas the pro wrestling guys are just going all year round.
52 weeks of the year, and it's everything. So, like, if you are, like, say, a weightlifter, you're doing just that. You're lifting weights. If you're a track runner, you are just running, right?
Yeah.
Pro wrestler, you have to run the ropes, lift your opponent up, slam them down, be slammed, run around, cut a promo on the mic, like, after when you're out of breath, like, and suddenly be an actor, like, before and after.
No, I get it. I think the only occupation that maybe just trumps it without any thought is being a male ballet dancer.
To be fair, ballet dance, like, ballet has a lot of crossover with professional wrestling.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
Because
lifting.
Yeah, and Darren Aronofsky made Black Swan and then made The Wrestler for exactly that reason. He said, I was inspired by these art forms because they're so physically and mentally demanding.
Yeah. There's, do you know what? We were picking which sports we're going to kind of, before our son is old enough to really express an interest, we want him to be doing something. And so we were picking what kind of classes we were going to take him to as a toddler.
And then when he gets famous, that'll validate your life choices because you're the parent of a famous person. So you just got to push them give him the right pushing into that field.
Well, no, but I want him to have the option. I want to give him a grounding in everything I can, so he has the option to pursue anything he wants to. And my partner and I settled on, as the sport we want him to do as a little one, is baby ballet, because we were like, that is going to set him up for any sport he wants to do. Whether he keeps dancing or not is his choice.
You're trying to make a Billy Elliot.
No, I just want my kid to be able to do whatever he wants. And the thing that we could put him in at like 2 or 3 years old, which was going to set him up the best for any sport he could potentially want to play, was baby ballet, because it's balance, it's strength, it's poise.
Oh yeah, immensely helpful. In the same way that not enough people do yoga. And I think a lot of people, especially men, turn their nose up at yoga like, ooh, stretching. It's like, it's literally one of the most beneficial things anyone can do, for their bodies.
I did a lot of, because I was, a martial artist when I was younger. So I did a lot of stretching, particularly when I was teaching karate, because I was teaching 3 or 4 different sessions a day. So I was stretching 3 or 4 times a day. I'm in my 30s and I got fat and I can still do the full box splits on command.
Which is good. And it's why everyone should do it, yeah.
Stretching, man, it's so fucking good for you. My hip flexors are insane.
Yeah. So back to the comic. I'm starting to realize that I think there is only so much we can say about the story because it is a very basic story. And I think that's by design, because a lot of other aspects of the comic are what shows, you know?
It's painted in broad strokes, and they state a lot of things explicitly that could have been made implicit, but it's saying all the right things. So really, this is a comment on the entertainment industry in America and the way it chews people up and spits them back out again. It's a comment on the way that I think oftentimes in these kind of industries, the wealth does not go towards the people it should.
Wrestlers especially.
Particularly. But, and I suppose it's a bit different for actors because they are generally well paid.
They have a union.
And one of the things that comes up here is that Digger tried to unionize.
Yep, and I think that's somewhat based on Jesse the Body Ventura, who went on after his wrestling career to be in the Predator film, which he's awesome in, and then became governor of California for a bit, I think, or maybe not
before Arnie.
It must have been before Arnie. He definitely got into politics. He's 100% into politics. I just can't remember his specific role.
So funny with California being so having Hollywood in it and being so dense with actors that a lot of them end up in politics there.
Yeah. I mean, it's California, so they're like, yeah, we like celebrities being like our politicians or whatever. And it seems to go well for them.
Celebrity is the main industry in California.
To be fair, if you look at all the celebrities who got into politics, most of them are generally fine, and there's just 2 really bad examples right at the top, if you know what I mean.
What, Trump and Reagan?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But everyone else who's done it, like Schwarzenegger was all right, apparently, and
he was an okay. Yeah, everyone seems to say he was an okay governor.
Yeah, and Jesse the Body Ventura, apparently he was fiscal conservative, but extremely progressive culturally. I can't even remember what party he was in. I think he might have been independent, but he was like fiscally conservative, but he was also like decade ahead of like legalized gay marriage when it wasn't legal and legalized weed and that kind of stuff.
Okay, yeah.
But the reason I mention him is when he was in the WWF back then, he tried to get a union together with the wrestlers, and then Vince McMahon found out about it and basically like squashed it before it could get off the ground. There was another wrestler who found out about it and basically snitched on Jesse the Body Ventura to Vince McMahon. Do you want to take a guess who that wrestler was?
John Cena?
No, this was back in the 80s.
The Undertaker?
No, it was Hulk Hogan.
Oh, fucking bad guy Hulk Hogan.
Bad guy Hulk Hogan, rest in peace. But
he died recently.
He did die. And if you want to laugh, if you're not a died in the wall wrestling fan already or yet, look up Hulk Hogan's lies, a Twitter thread, because he was such a prolific liar of things that don't even really matter. Like, one of his lies was he claimed he wrestled 400 times a year because he kept flying to Japan when the time would go back and would wrestle again in the same day. So he wrestled more times than there were days in the year. He claimed that
doesn't make any sense though.
Yeah, he claimed that when he slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3, that Andre died for a bit or something. And he kept lying about the number of people that were there, even though they couldn't house that many people in the building. He claimed that he partied with Jim Belushi after that match.
John Belushi.
John John Belushi, the one who died. But he died before the match happened.
Oh, shit.
So it's like, I'm fairly certain that didn't happen.
Is he Jim or John? No, he's John Belushi. It's John Belushi.
I always get them mixed up. He claimed that Metallica offered him the role of bassist in the band. There's so many more, and they're all hilarious.
Can he play bass?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
It does. Yeah, because if he can play bass,
it only matters if there's any chance of it being true.
Yeah,
there's zero chance of it. So yeah,
I should imagine what's his face, McBaldy,
McBaldy,
lead singer of Metallica.
Oh, James Hetfield.
James Hetfield being like, "Hey, Hulk Hogan, we need you to play bass in the band." Yeah. Like, because that's his thing, isn't it?
You mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's... sounds more like Lil Jon.
No, because when he sings, he's like,
He's more like, do your last breath, like that.
There you go, you go.
Before your luck runs out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
You went, yeah. So, whoop-ah situation.
This has been a weird episode, brother.
So, and you get into the spirit of it, brother, because that was Hulk Hogan's thing.
So, the character... So, yeah, you are right in what you say. The story's painted in broad strokes. I think there's one character they did a little dirty and painted maybe too broadly and oversimplified a little bit too much. So there's a character who's like a Lucha Libre. What are they actually called? The Mexican wrestlers.
Lucha Libre.
Lucha Libre.
A luchador.
Luchador.
Yes.
So there's a character who's a luchador. We meet his son, and they have a strange relationship because his son is also a wrestler, but bang into drugs.
Yeah.
And his son, he kind of made a bit of a joke that he has this raging drug problem, and we see him on coke all the time. But I think it trivializes it, and I think everybody else has their moment to seriously kind of talk about why their issue's so serious. And given the rich history and heritage of drug abuse in wrestling and the fact that it came from the industry being as toxic as it was and people using it to manage their pain and to keep up the work rate as well.
Yep.
Like, the ones who were doing a lot of downers were doing it to manage chronic pain that they had because of the wrestling. The guys who were doing a lot of uppers were largely doing it so they could keep going every week.
And the Venn diagram of those two was quite an overlap.
Yeah, so they're, I think they maybe trivialized that a little bit too much. And I would have liked to have seen in that character some of the tragedy of drug abuse.
Yeah.
And again, they very much played it off as, there was a point where they were all talking about what they were going to do with the money from this heist. And the dad was like, I'll send my kid to rehab. And he was like, no, I like drugs. And it's like, okay, maybe that's the place he's in the cycle of his addiction. He's not really ready for rehab yet. And he's still kind of saying, I do this because I like it, not because I need it. But I think they could have cracked that nut open a little bit more.
I agree with you, and I do think that is a bit where the tone, normally it is very well balanced, and that is one area where, maybe it's not so much. And in inferring, and maybe this is me, giving it a little too much credit, the way I kind of read it, only now because you're bringing it up, is that it is the older wrestlers who are kind of self-reflective and looking back and having regrets and whatever. And maybe it's saying something that the young wrestler is like, I'm doing a load of drugs and everything's great. And maybe that's something in its... I mean, they're not hinting really at that, but maybe...
he's also not rich. He is wrestling for a shitty little in-person, non-televised production to pay off massive drug debts to a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Who will, there's a lot of tragedy inherent in his situation that I don't think we're seeing.
True.
I agree. I think it's a very small fly in an otherwise very well-blended ointment.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this impeded my enjoyment of it or that it's a huge critique, but it's the one character that every time he sort of popped up and he said something, every time he opened his mouth, I was like, oh, you're really trivializing quite a serious issue.
Yeah. But again, that is making a joke of it is kind of the tone as well, but because of the subject of the joke, I think they could have gone either way. They could have either made more of a point of it, like you say, or for me, why I say they could have made it more obvious that the only reason he's like that is because he's young and reckless. And again, I got a little bit of that, but maybe not enough to justify it.
There are people who are young and on a lot of drugs who don't have a drug problem. They just want to party. That happens. I knew many like it. And, you know, you bump into them 15 years later and you kind of go, oh, fuck, I don't really want to talk to this guy. They're an absolute menace. And they're like, hello. I'm just going to pick my daughter up, actually. And you're like, oh, fuck, you've really cleaned your act up. And then you realise that there wasn't an act for them to clean up. They would just bang on it because they were 21 and they were enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
So I understand that those people exist, but... And again, I'm not even saying it really was to the detriment of the comic book as a whole, but it certainly felt like there was just this one character whose issues weren't being taken as seriously as the rest.
Yeah. And again, I do think there is something to, like, the older ones being the ones who are self-assessing and looking back and having regrets and all that kind of stuff. And it happens that the young wrestler who can run across ropes and do incredible physical feats is also doing a load of coke backstage as well.
Yeah.
And
it stands to reason that somebody who is really at his peak at that time and that chemically enhanced maybe wouldn't be in a position for self-reflection. I can understand that, but
the comic doesn't do enough to frame it as that.
Exactly, yeah. You've framed it as that in your head, but there's nothing textual that really indicates that.
Yeah. And I think, that I agree with you that it's a great comic overall, but it's one area where they could have done something differently and got a better result.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just one area where I was like, in terms of, because we read 4 issues of this, because that's all that's out at the moment.
There's 4 issues. It's of 5, so there is a 5th to come out, the last issue, which I'm going to be like...
I'm super stoked for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to read it. I need to know. Because essentially, issue 4 ends...
This is the spoilers for, but there's still another issue that is the ending anyway.
Yeah. So read the 4 issues. We're spoiling the twist at the end of 4.
Yeah.
But we don't know how it's going to end. We don't know how this is going to pan out. So we're not spoiling anything, really.
Exactly.
But there's a point where, to be honest with you, Sterling has been one step ahead of the Vince
McMahon. Vince Vaughn, different guy.
I really like Vince Vaughn. Have you seen Swingers?
Yes, years ago.
You're so fucking money, baby, and you don't even know it.
I prefer dodgeball, but go on.
Do you?
God, dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
The 5 Ds of dodgeball. Dip, dog, dodge, and dive.
We just said completely different words.
No, it's dip, duck, dodge, dive, and dodge.
Yeah, sure.
Because dodge is 2 of the 5 Ds.
I think dodge is 1 and 5. Because I think that's the joke, isn't it?
It's
funny. It's great when people explain the jokes. That's what makes them even funnier. Vince McMahon he's suspecting of something going on.
Yeah, and then he corners the young drug addict and asks him what's going on. And then issue 4, he has Sterling kind of in a back room of the event center because he's had to go in as a distraction.
Very Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11.
Yes.
Which I always remind me of that.
And he basically says to him, I knew what your plan was all along. And then they open the bank vault, and there is his enforcer.
Yeah, is it so? And that's like the cliffhanger. It's like, what's going to happen in issue 5? Because they've done a really good job of setting up like Vince McMahon character's enforcer is the only reason that another wrestler who he has fucked over hasn't just punched him in the face
because he's big and scary.
Yeah, and he's based off a real life wrestler, a guy called Haku, who was like I don't think he was Samoan, Tongan, I think he was. But he...
Oh, shit, you don't fuck with those guys.
Oh, exactly. And that was the thing amongst wrestlers and all these, like, brick shithouse blokes, they were all kind of unanimously like, don't mess with Haku. He gets in fights in bars and he ripped a guy's nose off once.
So, I have a buddy who was in the British Army.
Right.
He was an officer. I won't tell you which rank he was, but... when the Grenadiers March played, you would have to salute him, put it that way.
Right.
Yeah, and the big Samoan guys they have in the British Army and the Tongan guys, everyone knows not to fuck with them.
Yeah.
Them and the Gurkhas.
Yeah.
The Gurkhas are the ones you really don't fuck with. But the big Samoan guys and the big Tongan guys they have in the British Army, everyone knows not to fuck with them because they are lovely, but ultimately terrifying.
Yep. And that was true in the wrestling world as well. And again, they weren't necessarily like the most push guys or most over guys, but they were guys who they were just, all the other wrestlers were like, if you get in a bar fight, you don't need to worry about him. Like, he is going to be fine.
He'll be okay.
And they literally do a comedic version of that where the Gravedigger is talking about being on the road with him, getting to fight with him. And in this bar fight, a guy stabbing this guy in the back. Yeah. And the guy just literally turned around and Digger just going like, you've just made him angry. Like, I'm leaving now because the police are going to be here soon. And that was definitely a real thing that happened in like those wrestling days.
It's mental, isn't it?
But it's also for me, like being a wrestling fan, knowing all the stuff, the Vince McMahon character going up to the young wrestler, basically not just being like, what's going on, but also like, if you tell me, maybe I can give you a job in the big time. Like, that is literally, like, when you said, oh, he's this young guy, he's just wrestling in a non-televised, like, indie show, basically.
Yeah.
That in itself isn't sad if you're on the up.
Yeah.
Like, if you're on the rise, that's just the part. If you were big and famous and then you're doing it afterwards, then it might be considered like, oh, he's past his peak, he's sad.
Yeah, he's on the up and up.
Exactly. So to that offer of like, we're the only game in town, like, if you want to be rich and famous, I'm the only person in the world who can make that happen, and I'm offering that to you. Like, that's a huge thing in the real world.
Also, if you steal a bunch of money from me, you'll never be rich and famous.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas the old guys have got nothing to lose other than jail time, obviously.
Yeah.
But this young guy's like, oh, my dreams? Like, everything I'm doing this for? Like, that's a big fucking ask.
Go for it. I think the other thing that we have to talk about, and trigger warning, we're about to talk about the R word, because they do go into... So there have been a number, and by a number I mean a cubic shitload, of sexual assault allegations against Vince McMahon, right?
I would correct to say it's not a big number in terms of, it's not a lot of people. It's a few specific people who have some pretty horrific things they've alleged to have happened to them.
And so this Vince McMahon character in this comic book, there's a female wrestler, and they're all going around the room talking about who has been fucked over the worst. And Sterling mentions this female wrestler who essentially he got hooked on drugs and wasn't letting wrestle and was sexually assaulting. And then finally she killed herself. But what he admits to in that room is that she didn't kill herself. He force fed her a bunch of pills and made it look like suicide. And my guess, because there's a few things that Sterling has done that he's not told the rest of the crew about. So my guess is that getting a confession out of him was one of the things that he's done. And he's gone in there wearing a wire, knowing he would be taken to a room, knowing that he could then steer the conversation with the smug prick to the awful things he's done in the hope that he can get a confession out of him that he can use to try and get him convicted. I think that'll be what he's aiming for.
Possibly. Like that, I think they've laid the groundwork for that, so that's probably likely more than anything. The two things I want to say, and I'm going to say two things because they're totally quite different. So in this area, there is like ongoing lawsuit against Vince McMahon and WWE. So it's still allegations at this time, but it's an active lawsuit that's happening. It's why Vince McMahon is no longer with the WWE.
Oh, is he not?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that as like they found out he did bad stuff and kicked him out because they're a good company. What I mean is they were like, this is bad for publicity, and we're making political moves behind the scenes because other people want the power within the company. Yeah. So they're using that to get you kicked out kind of thing.
I mean, it probably was one of those things where actually he wouldn't have gotten kicked out for it until the moment they wanted him out. And then they were like, yep, there you go. We'll use that.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that was leaked to actual like journalists when it all came out. So it's like, who inside leaked it? Is it the people who are now in power? Like all that kind of stuff. And the other part I'll say is, before I get to the lower stakes story stuff, is when it talks about women's wrestling in general. Like, I think it goes into quite interesting detail here where women's wrestling is only in recent years, like in the past kind of 10-ish years or so, like taken more seriously. There was a time before that where like the Attitude Era, as it's called, like the late 90s to like
when wrestling was ubiquitous, when it was huge.
Yeah. Women's wrestling was basically, are you hot? You're going to be in a bikini. You're probably going to be in what they used to refer to as, and it's the actual name for them, bra and panties matches. Yeah. Or it was mud wrestling or some other.
And they name check that here, don't they?
Exactly. Yeah. But what's interesting is they make a point of saying that a lot of people think women's wrestling was only that until it more recently became more legitimized and women were actually treated as fellow
but it's
wrestlers.
Always been legit, hasn't it?
It was legit before it changed that, and it was changed that largely by WWE and Vince McMahon. But before then, there were proper women's wrestlers. Like, off the top of my head, like, as little as I know, there's a woman called Sandra Blaze, and she was like a proper wrestler. She wasn't treated right by WWE, so she made the jump to another company. But before she left, she took their title that they'd put on her, which to her was, and everyone else was basically meaningless. They made it meaningless, put it in a bin live on the competitors' TV.
That's cool.
And that was like what they called the Monday Night Wars between WWE and WCW. But that was like, women's wrestling was legitimate, and then Vince McMahon and the people around him
illegitimized it.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'll say is, the lower stakes story stuff, what I find interesting is, this kind of movement, like, but Sterling is doing a lot of like, I haven't told these other guys this part of the plan. I haven't told these guys. Well, I think this actually does get a little level above other like traditional heist stories. Normally, that would be, you wouldn't see any of that stuff until the twist at the end. And so you wouldn't get any inkling that stuff like that's happening in the background, but you get to the twist, they go, aha, you think we're in trouble, but actually I did this thing before, and that's why we're safe
and
now.
That's where it deviates from the traditional, well, not traditional, but the recipe of the formula.
Yeah.
The formula of a heist movie.
Formula's a kind of recipe. Recipe's a kind of formula. But yeah, I think it's interesting that they're laying the groundwork for, like, he's obviously compartmentalized this plan and told some people some stuff, some people other stuff, and is laying the groundwork for, like, did the thing with the son of the luchador, like, was that expected or was that planned? Like, and there's a lot of stuff going into this final issue that I'm like you said, what's going to happen? I'm excited to see what's going to happen.
So I'm really stoked for the finale of this one.
Yeah.
I think this one has been it's a runaway success, man. It happens with comic books. Sometimes we read something and it's just like, oh, this was better than it had any business being. Yeah. And this is it.
This is the kind of stuff I hope takes off for the creators, the writers and artists involved. Like, I hope that at some point we're going to be doing a Marvel or DC thing and I'm going to be like, oh, this is the Wrestle Heist guys, or this is the Wrestle Heist writer. Like,
yeah, like, hopefully these guys go on and they get offered something fucking huge. Imagine seeing, like, a Batman in this art style.
I mean, that would be very Kryptonite Spectrum Ice Cream Man guys kind of thing.
Because, you know, I've just realised what this reminds me of.
Art-wise, it kind of reminds me of Chew, remember?
Chew, yeah. But more cartoonized than Chew.
Yes.
This reminds me of, like, Horrible Histories and kids' books. I read a lot of, like...
If it wasn't for all the swearing, this could be a kid's comic.
I read a lot of, like, fiction written for very small children at the moment, for obvious reasons. And so I'm in the business of buying picture books. And this art style is very, very reminiscent to what I see in a lot of my kids' picture books.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, some of them are truly gorgeous. I bought one the other day by a new author called Go to Sleep.
Alan Moore?
Yeah.
Will you go the fuck to sleep?
Yeah, it was called V for Vendetta. Apparently it's a kid's comic.
Remember, anarchy is the only true way to self-govern.
Remember, no, it was called Go to Sleep, Disgusting Blob. Right. And it's, like, so beautifully drawn. And, like, I keep reading all these kids' books and being like, I need to bring this to Ryan to show him, like, how good they are. And then I realized that you probably don't care about children's board books.
I mean, one day we will have a Patreon set up and we will do the weird stuff that we can't justify doing on the main channel.
Yeah.
We'll do some kids' books. I think that'd be fun to do.
I was feeling quite bitter at 3:00 in the morning recently, and I wrote an essay about the Manosphere guys. So if any of our listeners are interested on my scathing, like, 5-page response to the Manosphere...
Oh, I thought you were going to be in support of the Manosphere. Like,
it was called Andrew Tate, Our King.
I thought you were implying that we were, like, going to get on the bandwagon to, like, boost the numbers.
Yeah.
And be like, actually, we're misogynists now, so...
Rise and grind.
Yeah.
How many fucking Bugattis have you got? Because I don't have any Bugattis.
Can't even spell Bugatti.
I don't know if I can flex my MX-5. I don't know if the kids are in. I don't know if the kids would see my MX-5 as being like my MX-5 and your as being like aspirational.
Let's not put our car models out there in the informations. Maybe we bleep those out.
My vehicle registration is
my Rolls Royce.
Yeah, because like I drive Ryan's hinted at this. I own 2 cars.
Must be nice.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if I can flex either my Toyota Corolla or my Mazda MX-5. I just don't know that either of them are flex worthy.
Well, if you want me to leave those in, I'll leave those in.
I don't think it matters if people know what I drive.
You say that, but have you seen Baby Reindeer?
Yeah, yes. And one of my cars doesn't have a roof, and I don't want to get Franz Ferdinanded.
Exactly.
Somebody who really, really, really doesn't like somebody who really, really doesn't like Dick Grayson just turns up and throws a bomb in my convertible.
Jason Todd's the sexiest Robin, you bastard.
I mean, do you know what? today when I read the thing that I didn't want to read, I turned to Ryan and I was like, can we just do Under the Red Hood? Like, I really like it at the moment.
And we will be doing it at some point. We're going to, well, I said we should do a double bill. We should do Death in the Family, Death of Jason Todd, and then the next week, Under the Red Hood.
100%, because I've had a look at both recently and they're both really good.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing I want to do with the comic is one of the characters. So all these characters are loose amalgamations of real wrestling people, right? Yeah. The one that's the most interesting to me is this character, the Beowulf, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the thing with the Beowulf is he talks in a way with the Gravediggers, like he talks in his promos and where it's like, he talks like that in real life, and I hate him. And even to the point where everyone else is like, he's fine, like he's an all right guy. Gravedigger's like, no, I know he's an all right guy. I've got nothing against him, except he talks like a lunatic all the time, and I don't like him for that.
Yeah.
So he is based on a real guy, real wrestler called Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, I know who Randy Savage is.
And the thing about Randy Savage was he talked in a way in promos. People were like, wow, he's like created this character for these promos.
That's just fucking Randy Savage.
That's how he talks. That's how he talks. To the point where he once did a promo where he didn't know what he was going to talk about. And then he was in his hotel room. So he just picked up a bunch of those little coffee creamers. And his whole thing was about how the cream rises to the top, and kept placing them on this guy who's like a foot shorter than him, who's interviewing him, on his head, and he keeps producing them out of nowhere.
That's so funny.
It's legendary. If we've got time, I'll show you this
That's
after.
So funny.
The reason I mention this is because you are not a proper wrestling fan unless you have a Macho Man Randy Savage impression. Doesn't have to be a good one.
Do you have one?
Maybe I've been working on one today.
Go on,
we'll
do
see
it.
how it goes. So, the character, the Beowulf, this is a bit where he's doing a promo and he's just talking like a crazy guy. And I'm going to try and channel Macho Man Randy Savage as if he was saying it. Okay. So, you know when you do the thing where you got to say the key like word or phrase first to get into it?
Get into it.
Yeah, for Macho Man Randy Savage, it's yeah. The baby is in the bathwater, and the bathwater is dirty, Buddy Hansen. Monday nights, yeah, we're gonna throw out that dirty baby and its filthy bathwater. Yes, sir. And then I couldn't see it because of the mic. And then the Beowulf will once again hold their title above their heads, victorious. Yes, sir. Anyway, that's my Macho Man Randy Savage.
1 minute. I had to put my microphone between my legs and put the comfort bird I was holding down to applaud you for that.
And
but it was
comfort bird is a euphemism.
Yeah, for my dick.
Would you say best impression?
That's I do know what Randy Savage sounds like, and it is your best impression. Yeah,
brilliant. I've added it to the Rolodex.
It's in the roster of things
impressions
of the comic later because we've got we do Alan Moore a lot, obviously.
Yes, sir, we do.
It's different every time, but we do it. What are the other ones we do on the podcast?
Stanley. Excelsior.
I mean, to be honest with you, the only
Grant
time
Morrison, which is just.
In fairness, the only time Stan Lee gets name checked is when somebody says that Stan Lee did something, and I go, "So Jack Kirby."
Jack Kirby probably did something.
It's when Stan Lee was like, I was thinking about this, and I was like, so what happened is Jack Kirby was thinking about this.
And then Stanley said, what about? And said the exact same. Is that your joke but louder meme?
Yeah.
Basically. So, it for the comic. The one thing that I did say last week I was going to do was I was going to show you the Spider-Man trailer, but you handled that on your own.
I watched it independently, so...
This is Spider-Man Brand New Day, which shares its title with the comic that follows the One More Day story, which we covered.
Yeah.
Which was renownedly one of the worst Spider-Man comics.
So, they had the next film on a platter. Peter Parker has to run around and try and convince Stephen Strange to make it so that MJ remembers him so that he can get his end away, right?
I mean, I would assume, like most people, they wouldn't involve Stephen Strange just because they're obviously doing a thing where it's like, who is the Marvel character, who is the main MCU character who's in this one? And obviously, like, first one was Tony Stark, second one was Nick Fury, third one was Doctor Strange. So, like, it was assumed it was going to be a different guy for the fourth one.
But you see my point.
Yeah.
Like, the film was ready-made. Nobody remembers Peter Parker. He's very sad. And there's a bit of that in the trailer, but there's also a fucking symbiote.
Is there a symbiote?
Well, he's wearing the black symbiote suit. Like he has a symbiote.
I don't recall. I don't know if we watched the same trailer then. There is stuff where he's covered in web.
Did I watch a badly fan-made trailer?
You might have watched. There was a bunch of those around, so you might have actually watched one of those.
Right. That's so funny. Right. He had a symbiote in the one I watched.
Yeah, that's definitely not. That's definitely not. That's like the only thing that would have been worse. Is like, and then him and MJ started having sex, and it was fully graphic, and the acting was really bad.
And MJ wasn't played by Zendaya anymore.
But it was definitely Tom Holland still.
He had a symbiote in the one. It looks really good, mate.
All right, I'm going to play the proper trailer.
Thank you.
We will see if this either kickstarts your memory or we'll see if it's the same one you watch. So here we go.
Okay, so
was that the trailer you watched?
Do you know what? They used a bunch of bits from that trailer, but then spliced in a second half where Peter Parker had a symbiote.
So what happened was, before they released this trailer, they released snippets that were like 10-second clips, like to hype it up. So between them being released and the full trailer was like days later, someone was like, let's make a fake trailer out of what we have and let's just throw the symbiote in it, because why not?
And that's, there was, that scene where he was like, oh, if your DNA's mutating, that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
The next scene was Peter hanging from that big web thing in his house, and then he was in like the 90s black suit with the white spider on it, and there was a symbiote going over his head, and I was like, fuck, that's insane. Like, that's mental. They're doing a symbiote thing.
Got you hyped up for something completely false.
Yeah, that looks fine. That looks great. That's exactly what I was expecting that movie
was there
would be.
More of a focus on he's sad and alone and depressed?
Yeah, no, that's totally what that movie should be. I was like, why are they doing a symbiote thing?
There's so many. There was so many memes when it came out. Like it's genuine thing in the fandom right now of like, the meme is someone being like, dude, this new Spider-Man trailer is out, and the friend's like, yeah, I saw it on the thing. I'll watch it in a bit. And I was like, no, he's depressed. They're like, oh my god, like Spider-Man's depressed again. Yes, because that's the best Spider-Man.
So Spider-Man 3 was sad Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire's
he was always sad, wasn't he? Because in number one, Uncle Ben just died.
Yeah.
So he was sad about that. In the second one,
he just killed his friend's dad.
Yeah, and he couldn't be with MJ. He decided, so he was sad about that. And then the third one, he's like, actually, life's going pretty well. Oh no, I'm sad again. There's a symbiote. And that's the best.
So we've got sad Peter Parker. I'm psyched for it. It's exactly what that film should be and could have been.
Yeah, and I made it before we started recording. I said one of the criticisms is maybe there's too much stuff happening, and that could be a detriment to the film.
I thought they were doing a whole symbiote thing.
Well, but not that far off. They are obviously doing and spoilers if you don't want to know any even speculation about a film coming out. It looks like they're doing Man Spider.
Yeah.
And that's in a similar thing. Like he's becoming something he's not himself and that stuff. But then when you throw in the Punisher, who's there.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the first, like, how come there's all these guys in these Netflix shows or the, now Disney shows in New York and they're not crossed with Spider-Man? This is them being like, look, they're finally crossing over. Shut up about it now.
Yeah.
The fun thing where the Punisher almost says motherfucker and he gets webbed in the mouth before the fuck.
I like the Punisher and Spider-Man together, though.
Yeah. And they're apparently Barenthal and Holland are like really good friends in real life, so that helps. But then on top of that, you've got the Scorpion, played by, I think his name is Michael Mando. Yeah. But he was big bad in Better Call Saul, and was amazing in that. Finally getting Scorpion, like a live action Scorpion.
Yeah.
And then you've got the Hand Ninjas, which are Daredevil bad guy. And then if you've got a Daredevil rogues in this, does that mean Daredevil's going to be in it?
You could see Matt Murdock.
And there was that one bit where he's jumping at the building against the Hand. Big gap of space where there's like maybe someone is there, but they've been edited out of the trailer. And also,
Matt Murdock has already turned up in a Spider-Man thing, hasn't he?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
So we know he exists, and they've got. Is it a different guy playing him, or is it the guy from the Netflix show?
Same. It's same guy, Charlie Cox.
Yeah. So it's all to play for. Right, you said there was some comment.
I forewarned about these comments, and I think you were
so
nervous about them.
Ryan opened up like our like podcast capture and then showed me that there were comments, and I saw my name, but it wouldn't let me see what they were about. So there's been a slew of comments either about me or directed at me.
So we have some comments, and it's surprising the amount of times that we put out things to be like, hey, write in if you think this or that or your opinion on this or whatever. It turns out the thing that got people commenting was your talking about our debate, you could say, about how to do the General Thoughts theme tune. That was the one that people went, I have to comment about this.
Fuck's sake.
So
people care.
People care. So
right, show me.
First one we got on YouTube from superfan Leon Goopy.
Yeah.
Who basically said, General Thoughts. Maybe it's General Thoughts about General Thoughts. Jamie should compose his version of the theme so that Ryan can play it off the phone into the mic.
Yeah, fair enough.
And we did ask people to weigh in. We said, what would you prefer?
I like that he framed it as General Thoughts.
Yeah, general thoughts on General Thoughts.
These are his General Thoughts. Okay.
So that's one for playing it off the phone.
Yeah.
And then we've got one from repeated commenter and superfan Lance Ariato, who said, once again, great episode. Your resident American comic nerd here. So this was actually in response to talk about America, the two cities.
Yeah.
But he basically said, Metropolis generally believed to be a Midwest city, somewhere near Chicago, while Gotham has been shown instead to be in New Jersey, which is
cool.
Which is a thing. As soon as I read that comment, I was like, oh yeah, that is a thing.
So Gotham is like New York State. It's in Jersey.
Yeah, but Jersey is a separate state next to New York.
Is it?
Yeah, Jersey is its own state.
I thought New Jersey. Okay,
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
And going back to General Thoughts theme, because I read these in the wrong order, we have one comment from one Michael Blackwood who said, make Jamie play the music for all of us so we can dunk on how the phone into the microphone is better. So
fair enough.
That is 2 comments in support of playing it off my phone into the mic. And we haven't had any against yet. So.
Well, then that's it. That's that decided, isn't it? The fans have spoken.
But I think they still want to hear your version of it.
But they just want you to play it off of your phone into the microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
which
fair
I think
enough.
is a good compromise.
Right, well, we'll make that happen then.
Right, well, then we've done the important stuff. We've talked about the comic, we've talked about a Spider-Man trailer, and we've established how the General Thoughts theme is going to be played.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we can say at this point, really.
Peace. Right. If you want to see my essay about the Manosphere, then let us know, because we'll make a Patreon and we'll put it on there.
But comment if you want it pro or anti-Manosphere. We'll cater to both.
No,
we will play both sides.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll do that. And then thank you and good night.
And enjoy the luscious tones of the outro music over my luscious voice.
Oh yeah, I did that, didn't I? Peace.
And thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe to get notified of our future episodes as well. And if you're feeling particularly generous, then please leave a 5-star review on whatever podcast app you're using. If you'd like to get in contact with us, then send an email to comiclit@gmail.com. You can also watch videos by me on the Comic Stand YouTube page, which is linked in the description. Thank you, goodbye.